Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today I've chosen an older photo that I've had printed for a while of a friend's grandson's birthday party, and the twins were invited to it, and they were invited to make chocolates at Chocomore in Ormskirk, which is near us. The family live in Southport, so it's sort of between us and them, and they had such a wonderful time. So I really wanted to get this documented. So I've chosen Joyful Notes because this is a very celebratory collection. The colours went really nicely with my photo, and it has lots of things like happy birthday and celebrate and things like that. So I thought I'd be able to choose an appropriate title if I went with this. And I'm using Distress Oxides and the brush stroke stamp from Hey Little Magpie to create a base on this pattern paper. So it's just a ledger pattern paper from the Joyful Notes collection. And I've gone with the first ink I put down was Stormy Sky. Then next to that I've gone with Aged Mahogany. Then on the other side of it I've put Candied Apple. Then I'm going to add Salty Ocean and Scattered Straw. If you've watched my videos before, you know that Salty Ocean is a bit of a nemesis of mine because it really does stain anything it comes in contact with. So I'm a little bit careful with that, and I do leave it till the end, wondering if I need it. But yeah, definitely needed it. It matches the colour of their pinnies and hairnets that they're wearing for hygiene reasons in the chocolate factory. So the photo is just of them dipping various fruits into white and milk chocolate. So these colours go really, really nicely with the picture. I am sorry for the glare. I printed it on glossy paper. I try and use semi-matte now, just so that there isn't quite so much reflection on the image. It's all right when it's as it is now in the picture, but when I have it underneath the ring light, it really reflects quite badly, so I do apologise for that. So just getting this last stamp stuck down, and I did turn it around, so sometimes the splatters were going outwards and sometimes coming inwards, and I've matched the inks at the top and bottom because the photo and the strips of paper that I'm going to put down are going to cover that middle strip. So now I decided to water down each of the inks and add some splatters. So I'm just splattering tone on tone. So I've got the Salty Ocean splattered above and below that Salty Ocean block, and then I'm coming in here with the Candied Apple and so on and so forth. It's a very quick and easy method, just squidging it down onto my glass mat and then using a very wet paintbrush just to water it down and flick it onto the page. It doesn't take very long at all. And then once I've done this, I should just leave the page to dry to one side. I actually left it while I went and took Amelia to work and then when I came back it was dry. It doesn't take very long to dry, but it just gave it enough time so that I wasn't smearing it all over the page, which I tend to do when I'm being a bit impatient. So that's it all down. And now I'm going to come in with the paper strips. So first of all, here's the photo. It's just matted onto some white scrap cardstock just to give that differential around the edge to make it pop against all these colours. And then I'm coming in with the 6x8 paper pad, just tearing a strip of each of the papers that I like the look of, and then just lopping a bit off the end. So it's around 6.5 inches probably long. And then all the torn edges are going to face to the right. I will curl them up and then stick them down to the page. So I'm just going through. I didn't really want any of the white papers. I wanted the papers that were more saturated with colour. So I'm avoiding those certain pages and then going on to the next one, and as soon as I see one that I think will work, like that green and this stripy one, I just go for it. I'm trying not to overthink when I create these layouts because I know that they always turn out absolutely fine. These papers were made to go together, so it would be ridiculous if they didn't then work together when I create a layout. So just this last one here. Oh, I do one more actually. So I have this one here, and I wanted to get a darker burgundy type colour. I couldn't see it here, but then I found it loose on my desk, but it wasn't quite big enough, so I'm just going to chop that in the middle and make sure it goes behind the photo. So putting it in the middle of the arrangement so that the gap between the papers is hidden. So this is where I start curling up each of the edges and then sticking it down, just using my ATG. Again, not being too precious about it. I want them to be more or less straight, but I don't mind if they go up and down a little bit against each other. They're not all exactly the same length, but more or less the same length. I think muscle memory, when you're trying to cut them at different lengths, it just sort of happens that they are cut the same length when you start off with an 8-inch strip. So here's that piece that I'd torn in the middle, or cut in the middle, so just making sure that those are together and then carrying on. And they will look like one piece once everything's down. So just checking that I'm still happy with the positioning, that I haven't stuck them too closely together, which is another favourite habit of mine. I cut so many strips, stick them down, and then I realise I need more because I've bunched them up a little bit more than I did when I first started dry fitting. So that's the strips down, and I wanted to create a bit more texture and interest, so I'm going to pull out my In Stitches stamps again from Hey Little Magpie, and I'm going to add some faux stitching along each of those strips of paper. I'm going to use a few different stamps to do this, not just the one design, again just to create some interest as it goes along the page. And these stamps aren't quite long enough to go right the way along the strip because I want them to come off the end, so I'm just double stamping. The photo and the embellishments are all going to cover any joins anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So just turning them round, using different pieces and getting this all stamped up. So you probably noticed if you've been watching my videos for a while, I absolutely love creating strip designs. So whether it's long, thin strips and creating an L shape, or like this, creating a mat for the photo to sit on. I just love using strips of paper, and it's a great way of using up scraps as well. You can see that this photo spans most of these strips, so even if I only had small bits, I could cut them like I did with that deep pink one and have them half at the top, half at the bottom, and there would still be enough paper to go around. It's just fantastic. And you've also noticed that I have used a pattern paper background again. I'm trying to just experiment with that a little bit more at the moment. My albums are very white, and I do love a white background, but sometimes it's nice to try something different. That said, this is probably as close to a neutral background as you're going to get, really, isn't it? Just using a tan coloured ledger. But anyway, so almost there with the stamping. I just wanted to pull out this single stitch for the last one, and then I'm going to use some of those smaller stitches that I've got to create interest on that piece. So just inking up to get the last bit at the bottom. And I've just used my black soot because I knew I wasn't going to come in with any more water, so it was fine, it wasn't going to bleed. So I just decided to grab that today. So here are some of those smaller stamps, and they really create loads of interest when you stamp them over the top of those other stitch lines. So just using a few of them on certain of the stamped images. Some of them where the stamp didn't work quite so well, it was a bit faded. I didn't use enough pressure to stick it down. I think I was trying to rush too much to get this done. So that's it, that's the stamping done. So now I'm coming in with my hole reinforcers. I've just off camera punched a load of these one evening while I was watching TV, and they're just in this little tin in my desk, so I don't have to drag the card and punch out each time I want to use them on a layout. So I'm just bending them in the middle and then just gluing one half of them down, and again that creates movement on the page and a bit of texture because they're not flat to the page, so you get that lovely shadow where they fall. And then I really wanted to use this sticker that says happy birthday. Originally I thought I was going to stick it on the right hand side, but I end up putting it here on the left. But you'll see when I put that down, and then I'll use the thickers to create Oliver's name, it's really heavy on this left hand side of the page, so I do mess about a little bit to balance that out once I've got Oliver's name down here. And these stickers are really beautiful. They work perfectly with these papers. So that's the title. It just says happy birthday Oliver. So now I'm going to add some foam pads to the photo just because of all that texture behind it. I wanted to raise it up, and it also casts a lovely shadow again, having that raised up, so it's another definition between that and the papers behind it. So these are the Sticks 2 25mm foam pads that we sell at Hey Little Magpie. They're on a massive roll, and I just cut them into these strips. A friend recommended I do that, and it's been fantastic doing that, just putting them in a photo box. So going back to the 6x12 sticker sheet, and I'm just getting a couple of these little rick-rack pieces. I know Helen will be very happy that I'm using rick-rack. She loves that. So just popping those underneath the title, and then there was a little yellow heart that I've just added underneath there. So now I'm going to start looking for things to balance this layout out, adding something to the right hand side. I spent ages going through those ephemera pieces but couldn't really see anything, and then I thought about the cut apart sheets in the 6x8 paper pad. So I found a label, so I'm going to start with that on the right hand side because I wanted somewhere to add a little bit of journaling as well, just about where we were. There's not a lot to say about this photo. I've got fantastic memories of it, but I didn't need to write too much. But then I saw this little quote as well that says, do the things that make you happy. And I thought that will sit really nicely with that label and sort of balance everything out, because that's nice and dark. And it's on a slight diagonal to the title. That just works perfectly there. And once I've got the journaling on there, it fills in that white space, so it's not quite so stark white. So just move that ring because it was where the quote was going to go down, and I decided that I needed one more. I thought it was going to go on the right here, again to balance things, but in the end it ends up underneath the photo. And you'll see what I do to create a bit more interest down there. So first of all, I think I'm going to use this knitted heart. This is from Hey Little Magpie Bits and Pieces, but then I found my embroidery star from the March Hey Little Magpie embellishment box, and that sits much better on that right hand side. So I use the heart above the title on the left, and that's navy, so it fits really nicely with the colours of the paper. So the last thing to do now is to work out where the tab for my date and what it's going to sit on. So it's going to go on the right hand side here, and I've found a little label shape in the ephemera pieces, and then just this offcut of some ledger paper, which must have been from a tag or something that I've used previously. So just creating a nice little cluster there for the tab to sit on, and that's going to hold my date. So I'll just use a scrap of white card and my roller date stamp to pop the date down onto that. So there's that knitted heart stuck down, and the embroidery star, just adding my journaling, and it just says celebrating Oliver's birthday at Jock-a-Moor in Maudsley. Maudsley. So gluing those pieces down, and then I'll get the date onto that. Just another little heart next to that navy. It's almost tone on tone, so you can barely see it, but I really like the look of that. And then I found this little vellum flower, which I thought would finish that cluster off to the right really nicely. And I feel I've got the balance now with that heavy title on the left and then that little cluster on the right. So here I am with the date. I'm just going to cut that out and stick it to the tab, and that's it done. Thank you so much for joining me. I do hope this has provided some inspiration for you. Thank you so much for all the comments as well. I really appreciate it when you take the time to leave me a comment when you've watched my video. Thanks again. Bye.